CardGamesTV1 Podcast. So, Zenkai format, right? We're in the Zenkai block. A lot of cool new stuff to play with. I still have to look through a lot of the cards. There are some nice promos coming out here, like the 117 Defending Friends. That has some potential because it's a blue topo essentially. So there's potential there with that. Just got to have another Floodgate card, especially in blue, to further increase our blue defense. Of course, we got stuff in set 19 I gotta check out. Of course, we got the Zenkai cards. Definitely nice that they have this Gohan at the ready blocker. So it's one red energy to play it and one Z energy. So that's an easy requirement to meet, and you get a 4K blocker with some added abilities. But the only thing I care about anyway is just the fact that it's a blocker. So because sometimes, and this is like definitely a 4 of, right? Depending on what deck you're playing, but definitely a 4 of if you're playing red. I'm definitely going to use this in my Gohan Burnhan deck. Because a lot of times there'll be situations where I don't have defense, right? I don't have a way to defend. Because either I ran out of negates, or already used up my negates, or some situation. So the fact that these are blockers, right? Because blockers are blocker, right? A way you can, on demand, bring out a defensive card is very useful. Also comes ahead if you're making a really aggro deck. Instead of trying to balance it out with offense and defense, you don't have to put defensive cards in the main of your deck, right? In your main deck, you can just put the blocker stuff, right? Like this Gohan. And so, that's really nice to have the defense whenever you need it. So that's a couple of stuff I'm looking for. Finishers, being able to have a finisher or technically something similar to an ultimate on demand, right? Because I was considering that would be the case with the Z cards that might act like ultimates, especially some of them might act like ultimates that you can call on demand, right? Like you can, when you need them, you got them, right? Because we know we will always love to have access to sell Zeno in any yellow or green deck, so we can use it as a finisher, right? So we can use it as a win con, because it itself is a win con. So any ultimate that has win con capabilities, we always want to be able to grab it, right? To search it out, to go get it and use it as our win con. So it sucks that we normally don't have ways to search out these win cons. Slowly, I know as Bandai is trying to give us stuff to help us search out, help us get our ultimates, which we appreciate. It's just kind of weird that they didn't automatically try it out. Like they didn't automatically try to make it. I was thinking like it'd be kind of cool to have a card in your Z zone, right? That when you play it, it lets you search out your ultimate, but you got to meet certain conditions. Like you have specific cards specifically to search out specific ultimates, like a specific card to go search out your Cell Zeno, but you got to meet the conditions of the card. I can't think of any like conditions you will have to meet for that, but you get the idea. It's like you got to meet the conditions. So once you meet the conditions, then you can get the Cell Zeno, then go off, right? Things like that. So that way, the ultimates can have more use in the game. Because ultimates are nice, but they're more luck-based. If you get lucky and you draw it, then you can benefit from it. But being able to go get it specifically, deliberately, and then use it as part of your deck strategy, especially if it's a win con type of card. Some ultimates are defensive, like Baby Hatchiak. It's more of a defensive card, more of a floodgate, right? Floodgate negate. would be kind of nice to always have access to it whenever you want to play, right? And it definitely can help turn the game around in your favor. But it's usually hard to go get it. And many other ultimates have really good, useful abilities and effects that can help you in certain matchups. But getting to it tends to be difficult. So that's why having Z battle cards specifically, that act as ultimates, especially if they're win con, as well as anything else similar to that. Another thing is on-demand board wipes, on-demand burn. So there's certain things that I look for when it comes to a lot of these new Z battle cards, because I'm looking for like things for a specific purpose, right? Blockers, right? So anything with defense, I mean, blocker revenge would be nice, obviously. That helps you get around anything that has barrier. Board wipes that ignore barrier is always good, obviously. I mean, anything that has any battle card that has an effect. Z battle card has an effect that when you play it, you can warp something, whether it be from your opponent's hand, drop area, field, right, deck, things of that nature, and many other things. Like even a Z battle card, when you play it, you draw 2 cards. Like that would be something useful, right? Because it could, if you play it right, it could be a reusable engine. Ooh, that'd be busted if they have like a red Z battle card that lets you draw 2 cards, and it's a Earthling or a Saiyan. Well, Saiyan specifically, like a red Saiyan. Ooh, that'd be busted. Because then that's the draw engine right there in Bulma. If you play it right, you have a reusable engine. Draw 2 with that, right? Draw for your turn, so that's 3 cards. Then if your leader's awake, and draw 2 more, so that's 5 cards a turn. So you're drawing 5 cards a turn. If you have a unison that lets you draw, then that's 6 cards a turn. So the potential of drawing 6 cards a turn, so basically filling up your hands every turn, it's going to be obviously a busted strategy with Bulma in that regards. I mean, we already draw, about 4 to 5 cards a turn with Bulma already. Or you have potential to, so not too surprising. And of course, you can always do more because there's other cards you could play that also can potentially give you 2 more cards. So you could potentially draw 8 cards a turn. But anyway, so I was saying board wipes. Obviously being able to have board wipes on demand. So whenever you need it, it's there, which is always helpful, especially in any situations. One of the things that automatically is useful about the Z battle cards is the fact that they're immune to hand control because they're not in your hand. So hand control is irrelevant, right? A lot of these cards tend to have deflect by default or deflect and barrier, which tends to be, nice to have, which basically makes them like unisons. They're immune to, responses, so that's always good. So that adds to the power, right? So no surprise that they're gonna become like staples, right? Everybody's gonna have certain specific Z cards that they're going to use in their decks. That's going to give them abilities. So I've always had the idea of having an extra deck, having a deck on the side that you can always access to. Basically, kind of like a side deck, but without being a side deck, right? Because we still have side decks. Then we have the Z zone, right? Then we have our main decks. So we just have something extra that we can play with. So Yu-Gi-Oh has an extra deck. Most other card games do. Even now, Magic has it. They call it because they use lesson cards. That's what it is. Okay, that's what it is. No, they don't have a new. They use. Okay, they did something slick. Since they already had side decks as a part of the game, instead of creating a new type of deck to hold cards, all they did was make it where they have a rule where you can access certain cards from your side deck through the effects of other cards. So they kind of turn their side deck into like essentially an extra deck or Z zone, if you want to call it that. You know, to make a reference to Dragon Ball Super. So that's kind of what they did. Because what's interesting is like Bandai could have done that instead of making a zone, a deck space specifically for Z cards. Could have just made it with the Z cards have to be in your sideboard, and you can't take them out obviously unless you play them from the sideboard. So you have to meet the conditions to play them from the sideboard. So one thing is that would take up sideboarding, side deck slots, and things of that nature. So like I was already mentioning earlier about having board wipes. Definitely want to have access to board wipes. Obviously blockers, anything that can do a lot of damage. They can burn. I got a card that does that. Also, any effects that can help you trigger other effects are also useful. So that's the kind of stuff I look into. I'm not gonna go into the fullness of what you can do with Z cards. Obviously, there's a lot to talk about. I'll probably make a masterclass for the Z battle cards for all the different colors. But these cards definitely have potential. You definitely want to play some of the low cost stuff because you want to be able to guarantee you can play them when you need them, right? You don't want to play stuff that's hard to play. The cost to play them are too high, so it makes it too difficult to use. Obviously, we have ways of ramping, especially in blue, so it wouldn't be that hard to ramp up to be able to play some of the more expensive Z cards, but most of them tend to be pretty cheap. Most of them tend to be like 5 costs or less on average, or at least their total cost tends to be 5 or less. Like the Cell Awakening of the created Z battle card costs 3 blue and then 2 the Z energies in order to play, so that's a total 5 costs right there just to drop this bad boy. Has Deflect, 25k with critical, and then has the auto that when you play this card, choose all of your opponent's battle cards with energy cost 5 or less and place them under this card. So you're not even sending them to the drop or warp or bottom of your opponent's deck. You're just putting them right under this card. And then this has some extra abilities of gaining triple strike and whatnot by detaching one of the cards from under this card, or dropping all the cards on this card and then turn this into a finisher. So it has the potential to clear board, especially with a whole bunch of 5 cost or less blockers, especially if you're playing against like a Bulma deck or something, and then turn him into a finisher. So there's a lot of synergy there. So what else is going on in the game? Villainous is back in the game. They're trying to make Villainous and Heroic playable, which is about time. It's kind of weird that they didn't give us enough Villainous cards to try to make the most of it, and then have like some type of strategy that lets us abuse them, right? Be able to play them more than once. To a certain degree, I understand they don't want to make hand destruction or hand control easier, but at the same time, it is a style of playing that most people would like to be able to play. So making it where they can play that type of strategy will be beneficial. I know I do like to play that to a certain degree. Because one of the aspects of this game's defensive capabilities is hand size. So you always want to keep your hand size big because that adds to your defensive capabilities. Because if you can't block, if you can't negate, you have to try to combo to defend yourself. If not, you'll just take damage, and damage equals the potential of you losing, obviously, right? So that's what's always important to keep your hand size big. But like I said, Z battle cards have the inherent immunity to hand control since they're in your Z zone, Z deck instead of your hand. So this is, to me, automatically an automatic counter to hand control. or to any type of hand destruction is having these Z cards. I wouldn't be surprised at some point they'll create like a Z negate, like a counter attack, a Z battle card with counter attack. That'd be pretty nice, because if you end up in a scenario where like you lose your whole entire hand, your opponent does something to like. So they're saying they lost train of thought. Z battle card is doing cool things. The floodgate defense. What was that? I guess I'll go into something else because I really lost train of thought. Let's see. I mean, like I said, we got the Z cards, we got Z leaders. Look into that to see if any of them have potential for me potential interest of me using. So far, I'm not interested in really using them. There's like technically one, which is the Gogeta 100K one. That looks like fun, but hopefully to make more Z leaders that ideally are more generic, so they can be used with like multiple types of leaders. Maybe even create different conditions, like have a Z leader that works on a certain, like, because as far as I can see, because I haven't put a lot of time into the Z leaders, I'm assuming that they're specifically for specific leaders and specific color leaders, right? Because if I'm right, I saw a Janemba leader, Z leader. I was like, oh, cool, that would be good for Milnimba. It'd be nice to have that as an addition. But I think when I saw its effect, it was referring to another Janemba. It's like, or it does work with Milnimba, right? But its own effects are lackluster. It's not like that. One of the two. Either the card wasn't that great for using with the Milnimba deck, right? Janemba Mil deck, or it just doesn't work with the leader. So it was hard to say at the moment, but it's definitely something I was looking into. I wanted besides Janemba, I did want there is a Z leader Zamasu, but if I'm right, it's like yellow. It's like, oh man, I want a blue one. Right? I want the Z leader for set 2 Fuse Zamasu. It's kind of cool to have like a new thing, or at least a Z battle card leader that you can play with the set 2 Zamasu, but it's Goku Black instead, or something like that, or it's a combination of both Goku Black and Zamasu, right? That way, it's like, oh, I got both. Especially if I wanted to tech in a card that needs a Goku Black leader, being able to play the Z leader. Now the Z leader is both Goku Black and Zamasu. Now I can use that card that requires a Goku Black leader, for example. Most cards that talk about Goku Black do mention Zamasu, so it's like either you have a Goku Black or Zamasu, then you can play this card. So these cards already can work with Zamasu, but there are some cards, if I'm right, specifically just for Goku Black. So that type of scenario will be nice to be able to play a Z leader and then play a different, be able to use a certain card's effect because your leader has an extra a character type that you can take advantage of to get that extra effect. Another cool thing is with the Z leaders, like I said, I don't know much about them at the moment, but ideally what would be nice is if I could play the Z leader just because it has a character name, be able to play the yellow Zamasu leader on top of my set 2 blue Zamasu leader, just so that way I can suddenly have a yellow leader in case I want to tech in something, tech in some yellow cards that get effects because your leader's yellow. So that'd be kind of cool. You know, something a little different, a little something different. Being able to switch the color of your leader so you can get certain card effects, you know, would be interesting. Especially if they make certain cards that only have, not only, but have more than one effect, and one effect has to do with a leader being a certain color, you know, shit like that, right? So if they make cards that have multiple effects, but depending on the type of leader you have, the color of the leader determines if, you know, if you get those extra effects or not, which obviously will make it useful, especially if they make black cards, like, you know, black battle cards that have effects that says, if your leader is green, do this. If your leader is blue, do that. If your leader is yellow, do that. So that'd be kind of cool. Still waiting to see some of that. A black battle card that literally has. So if the leader has multiple, you know, it's multi, you know, like I said, the card having 5 colors, right? So if it has 5 effects, not 5 effects, right? 5 effects? Yeah, 5 effects because of the 5 colors. If I'm right, black is technically the 6th color. So it'd be red, blue, green, yellow. I guess I'm wrong. I guess black is the 5th color. But anyway, red, blue, green, yellow, black. That reminds me, still waiting for them to make pink. Pink is a color that should be in the game because of all the Super Saiyan hair colors. Because we have black, that's space form hair color, right? Then when you go Super Saiyan, that's yellow. When you go Super Saiyan God, that's red. When you go Super Saiyan blue, right? That's blue. When you go blue. Oh yeah, when you go Legendary Super Saiyan, that's green. Zamasu did Super Saiyan Rose or pink. And then there's the white hair, which is Master Ultra Instinct. So pink and white are like the 2 colors that they could add to the game that's currently missing from the game if we're going with that hair color scheme that I was referring to. Let's see. Unless they don't count the white hair as a Super Saiyan form per se, like, and then black it's just whatever. Black doesn't count as an actual color technically. Well, technically it does now because they do have specified black now, so black is an actual color. But anyway, let's say they don't count mastered, so then it's just so the only color left would be rose, like the pink, because that was a Super Saiyan hair transformation thing, because it was Super Saiyan status with extra God key on top or some shit. So pink is a color that's missing from the game. Plus, adding pink to the game would potentially bring more female players into the game. So that'd be nice, right? Grow the community. What else? Like I said, there's new sets. Got some new stuff. Oh yeah, there's of course reprints, right? I got me my Wakanda Forever baby Hachiac, so my blue decks finally have Hachiac. So, you know, speaking of Ultimates, right? Got my Hachiac. Also got the red Unison, the Gohanks Unison. Ironically, I accidentally ordered it. I meant to order it later on, but I ended up accidentally ordering it when I ordered other stuff. And it's better to have it. Right? It's better to have it anyway. Since I was going to buy it eventually, it didn't matter that I bought it early. So I have that. So I have 2 new Ultimates. You know, so far. There's a couple other Ultimates that I'll be interested in. So far, the Z battle cards and the unisons are some of the main things I'm looking at when it comes to new sets. Obviously, effects like Rejuvenate, burn effects, stuff I'm still always looking for. Because they add to WinCon, right? Or at least just make the game easier for you, right? Floodgate negates, board wipes, blocker, unisons, ideally, unisons with the blocker skill. Ideally with the ability to restand so that way I can attack with it and defense with a defensive stance strategy, right? Sword and shield combo, right? So I look for that. Again, board wipes. Black, has a new board wipe, which is a unison, which is the Gravy and Poutine Demon God unison. So it has a -3 activate. Choose all of your opponent's battle cards and send them to the owner's warp. So that's really nice that it can send anything on your opponent's side of the field to the warp. That's a battle card. Doesn't ignore barrier, but hey, breakers can't be choosers. At least I have a nice little board wipe for Hatchiak or any other black deck. But definitely, obviously, it's an auto include in mono black Hatchiak. We do have a couple new Overwhelm cards, specifically the Dark Broly Heartless Berserker. He's Overwhelm 6. He's a 30k. My Dark Broly card. Auto, when this card is played, choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards and send it to warp. So it's really nice. It can get rid of a blocker or just a problematic card. Doesn't ignore barrier, but hey, beggars can't be choosers. This is a common card, so it's easy to get. I already have my play set, so it's just a nice little free 30k essentially, right? Overwhelm 6 30k. Does have the active main pay 2 if your leader card is black, right? Play this card from your warp. So if you have a black leader, you get the added ability of being able to play this card from your warp. So 30k for 2 energies, always nice. So that's another thing we look for, or I definitely look for, in when new sets drop. For new Overwhelm cards. Ideally, that don't have a cost. Mirror Creator Absorber, of course, is one of my favorite Overwhelm cards. But thing with that card is that it has a cost. It'd be cool if they make a new one. Like, I'm still waiting for a 40k or even a 50k Overwhelm, right, battle card. That'd be nice. But we know that the 40k power tends to be given largely to ultimates. But a 40k Overwhelm battle card would be kind of nice. And that's all it really got to be. Like, it doesn't have to have anything extra, right? It can have 0 combo power. 40k, power, right? And then just something as simple as like Overwhelm 6. Or if you want to make it a little bit harder, Overwhelm 7 or 8, whatever. And it's a 40k. That's all it is. So essentially, its skill is other than the Overwhelm. Like the Overwhelm is the only skill it's gonna have. Overwhelm 7 or 8 or 6. 6 or less would be nice. But it's just a 40k. I mean, it could be like, I think could do Overwhelm 4 and be 40k, and that's all it does. And then let's add the whole don't have combo power. So I don't know. For some reason, Bandai likes giving some battle cards, especially black battle cards, 0 combo power. Like this Dark Broly Heartless Berserker also has 0 power per combo. So it's like, what was the point? I mean, unisons and extra cards already have 0 combo power. So it's kind of drawing for a battle card not to have combo understand it having low combo power, but zero. That kind of goes against the game technically, but whatever. I don't make the game. I just try to master it, right? Let's see. There's a couple new 30k cards. Obviously, I look for Zeno cards. Anything that has Zeno in it, because it has synergy with other cards. You know, like Zeno Goku, Zeno Vegeta has synergy with the Zeno Gogeta cards. So obviously, I look for stuff like that. So here's a SS Bardock 30k skillless battle cards. Of course, I look at the skillless cards. So that's another thing. It's funny to look for cards that have no skill. Right? Looking for skillless cards that meet certain conditions. I think there was a pan. Like we got a new pan. There's a 30k Fasha skillless battle card that's a Sane and also a Great Ape. So there's some synergy there because it's a yellow Sane. It's also a Great Ape, which means with Bulma it'll become a blocker, and with Planet Vegeta, which is a yellow extra card, right, field card, it will restand the Fasha. So you have a 30k attacker / blocker. You can attack with her at the end of your turn, restand it. So with those two cards in a Bulma deck, you have a 30k skillless battle card you can swing and block with, right? So the synergy there with that, and then all you have to do, obviously have a way to keep bringing it back. If it dies, right? If it dies by battle, card effect, bring it back and swing and block. So there's some synergy there. There's some use. Hopefully they create a couple more things of that nature. What else we got? Obviously tech cards. Anything we can tech into our decks. Anything that can help us against certain matchups. Anything to make it easier for us to win, like counters, right? Anything that can help us counter negates. Anything that can shut off skills will be stuff we'll be looking into. And I think there are some cards in the newer sets that have some negating capabilities. There is a new counter. I think it's in blue. But it requires a specific leader or some shit like that. You gotta meet certain requirements in order to use it. Which sucks. Is like, oh no, we want something generic. If right, there's a black card. We have a black card that's a counter, if I'm right. So I think there's a black counter is what I'm saying. We got Unison Killer, so we got this. So that's nice that we have some stuff that can help us. There's some really good new black cards, obviously, that have potential. For example, the Black Machine Assassin from the Darkness. He has an active battle ability. We pay 1 specified black energy, limit 1. If your leader card is black, play this card from your hand. Then he has all of them when you play this card. And he has 2 effects, but the one we're going to focus on is if it's your opponent's turn when you play this card, right, through the active battle skill, choose up to one of your cards, and it gets 5k power for the turn. Cards. Choose one of your cards. That means you could choose your Unison, or you can choose, obviously, your leader, which is the way I would go. I would use it to power up my leader, so that way it's essentially Senzu Bean. So I give my leader 5k power for the duration of the turn. So black now has a Senzu Bean. So this will obviously be a good card in Dark Broly decks, any other black leader deck. Obviously, I like, auto-include in Black Hatchiyak, mono Black Hatchiyak. Then we have the Black Smoke Dragon, Accumulated Negativity. This is a nice card in general because it's generic. So it's no specified colors, it's just 2. So 2 of any color. To play this has Deflect, permanent, it can't attack the 20k body, whatever, right? Auto, when you play this card from your hand, has to be from your hand. Specifically, choose one of these abilities. We're going to go straight to 2. Alright, I'll just go through all the effects. Place up to 3 cards on top of your deck into your drop, and if there are 7 or total of 7 or more cards in all drops, draw 2 cards. So It's a potential draw engine, which is nice, right? Especially if you can bounce it back to hand, play it every turn, and it's placed up to 3 cards. So that means you can place no cards into the drop, and then you have to have 7 or more cards in all drops. That means yours and your opponent. So it's nice that it counts your opponents as well. So you can play this, draw 2, so it's an automatic 2 for 2, right? And then has the choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards with an energy cost 7 or less, ignore bear, which is very important, right? And send it to the owner's board. So for 2 energy in any deck, you can put this in any deck, and like I said, it's a tech card, right? You could have this in your sideboard, tech it into your deck, and against any 7 cost or less that has a barrier, you can use it against. So it's very useful against a lot of problematic, battle cards that are 7 cost or less with barrier, right? And send it to the warp. And then has the useful ability, right, which we need. Choose up to one of your opponent's unisons with a specified cost of 2 or less, right? And 7 or fewer markers, so 7 or less, right? Markers, and send it to the owner's warp, right? So that's pretty nice. So it won't be able to hit unisons that have 3 or more specified costs, but it can definitely hit a lot of 2 or less specified costs that might have a lot of markers. So it's a specified cost of 2 or less, yeah, and 7 feet, right? So you have to be able to meet those 2 requirements. But hey, the fact that you can get rid of most 2-drop unisons that draw cards is good. It sucks that this can't hit like 4 specified 4 cost unisons like the blue unison, but this can hit other unisons. So it's good to be able to hit a couple 1-drop or 2-drop specified cost, right, unisons, which are typically used to be able to play stuff like gas stealing trunks. What's nice about this is the fact that you can play this, right, for 2 energy to get rid of your opponent's blue unison, that whether it was a specified cost 1 or a specified cost 2, that now has a whole bunch of markers that your opponent was counting on to be able to play their gas stealing trunks, right? So now you can play this, get rid of their unison. Now they can't play their gas stealing trunks. We actually play something else. So you can use this as a way of setting up win condition. So this is very useful in that regards. So this is like one way I would use it. It's a really good card in general. Obviously, I would tech this into Hatchak and many other decks because it's just a good card in general. For 2 energy, you can just get rid of whatever you want. So you get the idea. So this is definitely stuff to look into. Any black, like I said, any black cards, you always want to look in that section of stuff. Oh yeah, here's another card. Another black card. It has the auto. It has a couple effects, but the main auto, you want to be able to use cards that no, it's not the one. It is the first auto. Alright, auto limit 1. If your leader card is black or it's a master's teaching card, but we're mainly focused on is if the leader is black. So this is for black leaders. If your life is 4 or less and you add 1 card from your life to your hand, place 1 card from your hand and place it at the bottom of your deck. That's the condition you have to meet. When your opponent attacks with a battle card, you may play this card from your drop or warp in rest mode and negate the attack. So this is a drop or warp negate. So imagine if this was a Z battle card. It's not, it's a regular battle card, but if it was a Z battle card, that'd be kind of cool, right? If you could play from the Z area, obviously, but this works from the drop or the warp. So of course you can combo this. You combo it, use it to combo defensively to get it to the drop, and then if need be, trigger its effect. Remember, it's for free essentially, because as long as you have 4 or less life, all you have to do is take a life, and then bottom deck a card. You can bottom deck the life you added to your hand, right? You add a card from your life to your hand, and then put that card at the bottom of your deck, and be able to play this to negate an attack for free, right? So that's pretty nice. So obviously this is really good in any black deck that mills like Vegex or Hatchiak or just any black deck in general. I mean, you could take this in like Dark Broly or whatnot. Because again, like I said, you can combo it for the 5k, right? So you can use it to combo defensively in Dark Broly, and then be able to use it to negate an attack. So, because essentially it acts like a free negate if you use it right. So you can combo to potentially stop an attack, to defend against an attack, and then stop, negate another attack, right? So there's potential there, right? Potential. So that's pretty cool. And then of course there are some new ultimates, to look into. There's like a black, I don't know if it's here. We know there's a black ultimate. Oh yeah, there it is. So finally got my boy Cumber. They call him Evil Sane. Malice Made Flesh. He's an ultimate, 40k body, of course, 8 drop, generic. Does have an active main that requires 2 specified black in order to play it. If your opponent has 3 or more energy, play this card from your hand or warp. Notice it said warp, right? Then choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards, ignore and bury it, and send it to the warp. So it's a really good card, obviously. They can be used in a lot of decks. It's an 8 drop, so cards that hit 7 or less won't be able to hit this card, obviously. It doesn't have deflect, doesn't have barrier. It does have other effects, but the main thing is the fact that you could play it from your hand or warp. The warp is obviously an important detail, because it'll be easier to get them to the warp than it will be to get them to your hand, right? As an ultimate. Because I think there's a black card you can use. I think that you play and you can warp like a black battle card from your deck or something. So it wouldn't be that hard to get him to the warp and then play him from the warp for 2 black energy when your opponent has 3 or more energy. And then it gets ignore and bury, gets rid of one of your opponent's battle cards by warping it, so that's a really good effect to have. And then it's a 40k body. It does have other effects. Auto, once per turn, when your opponent plays a battle card with an energy cost 7 or less, you may send one of your battle cards to its owner's warp. If you do, gain control of the played card. So this can be used to steal your opponent's battle cards. So definitely a decent card if you can play it in Hatchiak and be able to get them out. That's why it's like having cards that can help search, help play your ultimates, to make it easier is always a good stuff. That also reminds me, there was a card, I don't think it's in this set, I think it's some earlier set, there was a negate that can let you play Smoke Dragon Ultimate. So that was nice that there was a card specifically for that. So Bandai is trying to give us stuff to play ultimates, which I like. And then they reprinted ultimates, which I also like. I did mention earlier, I got my baby Hatchiak, and I'm gonna look to on TCG Player see some more stuff that was reprinted in Malevolent collection. I don't know what's called. Not much to say. Just wanted to talk about some of the stuff that I'm seeing. I'm working on some decks. Got some new toys to play around with, improving certain deck ideas. The Z battle cards are like the main thing. It's like, yeah, time to start adding them to some of my old decks and make those decks stronger. I do have Z battle cards. I bought a whole bunch of them, and I'm already upgrading my Boma decks with it. My Zamasu deck with the blue cards. Obviously, gotta have that that Cell board wipe in my Zamasu deck, which is nice because that means I don't have to main deck a board wipe, or something to board wipe with. I can just use other cards instead, ideally more defensive cards. There is, I already mentioned that there is, I should just show the card in this video. There is Android 17, Defending Friends, Flaggate Negate, so that's something new to look into. And then, of course, we have the Cell Awakening of the Created. So that's an automatic board wipe, but also it acts as a finisher. So nice to have a board wipe / finisher that the Masu deck can use So obviously I'm upgrading my Zamasu deck. And then of course we got the new Pycon Unison, which gives you, the deck the ability to rejuvenate, which is very, very powerful, very useful, especially with set 2 Zamasu, because all you have to do is, if you have 2 or less life, obviously awaken, so that way now you don't take no more damage to your life, and then use this to rejuvenate, at least gain 1 life. So anytime you get your opponent down to 2 life or less, right, or at least you get, because it's not that hard for me to get my opponent down to 2 life, so I get them down, well, it's not that hard to get them down to 1, but you get the point. Get them down to at least 1, right, rejuvenate to make sure I have at least 2 life or more, and then, defend as much as possible, until, until time runs out. And this is if you're playing competitively, obviously. And then win in time, right? Time burn. Win by having more life than your opponent. So this unison with the leader is busted. So obviously got to improve the deck. And then, like I said, we got some new toys to play with. So I'll end the podcast at that.